At this juncture in history 2,000 years ago, baptism was not an uncommon practice. Many Jewish sects had adopted the act of baptism. Also, many pagan religions and schools of philosophy endorsed some kind of ritual or symbolic process involving water. So the command to baptize was not earth-shattering. It was not the point of this part of the commission. Even before John the Baptist showed up, baptism was a common practice. Jesus himself had been baptized. For what would eventually be called Christianity, baptism was already established as ritual, or we could say, a sacrament. The poignant feature of this command was the second part. In fact, it was entirely revolutionary. Baptize, Jesus said, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Remember, these disciples were Jewish. Jesus was Jewish. And a basic tenet of their faith is that there is one God. So to have their God named as three parts would have been rattling. Given that the miracle at Pentecost had not yet taken place, the disciples were not fully aware of the role of God's Spirit as a separate yet interconnected entity. To be perfectly honest, they didn't even quite have a handle on the idea of Jesus as God's Son. So here, for the first time, Jesus is proclaiming the Trinity, the triuneness of God, 3 in 1 and 1 in 3. A theological matter that actually ended up taking hundreds and hundreds of years to iron out. But that's material for another sermon. Just know that Jesus commands us to make disciples and baptize them in the three persons of God. Before I leave this command, there was something else that caught my eye. Jesus said to make disciples of all nations. This is fascinating for several reasons, but I'm not really sure where to start. You see, in a sense, he's echoing the very first commissioning, the one God gave to Abraham way back in Genesis 12. God tells Abraham that all the nations of the earth, would be blessed by him, blessed by his family, blessed by the Jewish nation. And intrinsic to that message is that they would also be blessed by the Jewish Messiah, and therefore blessed by his disciples. God had it all planned out thousands of years before it happened. Jesus' call to the disciples to reach out to all the nations is an ancient blessing. Salvation is not only for the Jews, but for everyone. But even this is kind of interesting because we have a few stories of Jesus, such as his run-in with the Syrophoenician woman, for example, where he says quite plainly that he has been sent to the Jews only. Jesus spent the majority of his time preaching and teaching in the area of Galilee, but here he was telling his disciples to go out to all nations. It reminds me of the passage in the Gospel of John when Jesus says, "Very truly, I tell you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and in fact will do greater works than these, because I am going to the Father." In 3 years, Jesus wasn't meant to get out and preach and make disciples of the whole world. But in the 2,000 years that's followed, we've been expected to. His final statement is this: "And remember, I am with you always to the end of the age." A final word of assurance, of affirmation, of security. Will it be easy? No, he didn't say that, unfortunately. But Christ will be with us. Greater than fear, greater than doubt, greater than pain, greater than uncertainty of the future is knowing that God is with us. Always. This is how Matthew ends his gospel. Not with the death of Christ, the broken, bloody body of a faithful servant of God perched lifeless on a rugged cross. Not with the tomb of Christ, the cold stone, the angry Roman guards, the fearful disciples running into hiding. He ends with a commissioning and an affirmation. Go, I will be with you. So there we have it, every heart-pounding moment of the Great Commission. 2,000 years later, and this is where my message gets challenging. Are we focused on the commission, or are we lost in the commotion? Are we caught up in the fear, running and hiding because our beliefs are threatened by society? Do we have our own agendas that prevent us from scaling the mountain? We're too wrapped up in our own lives, our own safety, our own well-being and happiness to want to leave our comfort zone. Do we only go halfway and expect others or even God himself to meet us there? Or maybe we just don't feel certain enough to strap on our hiking boots and move towards the unknown. Do we even have conviction anymore? Or maybe we are obedient and faithful and we climb to the top of that mountain, but then another force grips us. Doubt. I can't do this, we tell ourselves. I'm not equipped for this. I'm the wrong person. I'm too busy. I'm too tired. I'm too scared. Then I pack my bags and head back down the mountain. Let someone else do it, we tell ourselves. This is all commotion. Do you see it? It's commotion in our minds, commotion in our hearts, commotion that's affecting our ability to serve. We haven't even received the commission yet, and we're run ragged, just making the decision to get there. Then once the commission has been received, the commotion becomes even more overwhelming. Well, all the churches say, that must mean lots of programming, lots of genres of worship, different music styles. And the churches, in response to the Great Commission, busy themselves with these other things that keep them distracted, that eat up their energy, and blur their focus. So we need to stop for a second, catch our breath, and reflect once we get to the top of the mountain. Are we caught in the commotion of ministry? Are we making disciples or headlines? Are we feeding sheep or our own desires? What is our function? Is the church teaching people to be obedient to the Lord, or just to see God and his church as another consumable product? The church